So going back to Alan Wake was a little bit, I guess I was nervous because I didn't know if the game was going to hold up. I remember when the game was first released, I had really enjoyed the story quite a bit. It was like you were placed in a Stephen King novel and you were playing Stephen King. And Mouth of Madness, I had seen far later. I actually saw that just this past year. And it also reminded me a little bit of that going back to this game now. One of the things that a lot of people don't know, maybe you're younger and you're new to Alan Wake, but originally when Alan Wake came out, Remedy, the studio behind Alan Wake, wanted to release it episodically. So they wanted to release each episode of Alan Wake as along with a TV show, so you watched the show along with playing each episode. Unfortunately, Microsoft said fuck that noise and told them to release the full game on digital retail disc. Now looking into Alan Wake and just kind of seeing, the details that maybe I forgot, but apparently AMC is working closely with Remedy to make an Alan Wake TV show, and it's currently in development.
I'm glad to hear that.
As someone who, like I said, I'm a fan of Alan Wake, the character, the story, the world that Remedy has built, I would absolutely love to see an Alan Wake TV show. I think that would be dope as fuck. Now, the original Alan Wake game came out in 2010, and playing it through Steam and on the computer, I noticed it was very poorly optimized, or it just hasn't held up. But there was a lot of skips, a lot of frame rate problems, jitteriness, and it was still playable, don't get me wrong, but it just made the experience just far less so, and kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. One of the big reasons why I wanted to replay Alan Wake was because my brother Rocky hasn't played the game, and I figured it was a game that might be right up his alley. That he likes psychological horror, and Alan Wake is the perfect example of a video game doing psychological horror correctly. So for those who aren't familiar with the story behind Alan Wake, you play Alan Wake, and I think it's his girlfriend or wife, but her name's Alice, and essentially you go to this town called Bright Falls. And Bright Falls seems like any run-of-the-mill small town. It's thrives off of, cell phone businesses and fishing docks, and basically as soon as you arrive in town by a boat, that's when shit starts to go fucking crazy.
Don't go in there, young man. You can hurt yourself in the dark.
Alan Wake's horror element still holds up, even though I had forgotten a lot of the game. Some of it started to really come back to me, and I started to be reminded of the game itself and why I enjoyed it so much in the first place. And it's because of the combat. It has a very unique combat system. Essentially, you flash a light or use a flare and what I call pop 'em. And basically what that means is you flash the light on an enemy, or you hold a flare up to an enemy until you hear like a popping sound or a clicking sound. And once you hear that, or you see the small little circle around them as it slowly gets smaller and smaller, and then pop. You can start to shoot them with your shotgun or handgun, or a hunting rifle you'll get later in the game, or actually really early in the game. So we, in our first initial re-impression, we basically had gotten to close to the end of the second chapter. I've forgotten how long this game is. The game is probably about 15 to maybe 20 hours. If you don't know everything, like if you're trying to get everything, there's also little secrets. Essentially, if you hold your flashlight up to a rock, it will point like an arrow, and you follow the yellow arrows, and they'll take you to like a little chest with like all goodies. So like alkaline batteries is something that you get, handgun ammo, ammo for your other guns as well. But the game really puts you in a position where you feel like you're constantly outmanned, and in one moment where you're trying to go along and follow this one guy who's kind of helping you because he refuses to give you a gun.
This is it, Wake. The last stand. There's more flares here. Get ready. We fight them as long as they keep coming.
Give me the goddamn gun! They're coming!
You realize, Jesus Christ, this game's, the part of the horror element is the fact that you really feel very vulnerable. Like, you can be killed or taken down at any second and have to restart. And I love that. I love the fact that Alan Wake's challenge still is there. I love the fact that there's still, it still scares me. It still brings me like the creeps a little bit. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going back to this game quite a bit. I'm definitely giving, I don't know if this is a retro impression or what we might be calling this series, worth revisiting, I guess is a good name for it. But Alan Wake is definitely worth revisiting. Just, you have to expect it's going to be a little bit jumpy. The frame rates are going to be all over the place. But as long as you're okay with that and just mostly care about the story, this is definitely worth revisiting.
Alan Wake is an action-adventure game developed by Remedy Entertainment that was published by Microsoft Game Studios. This was released for the Xbox 360 in May of 2010 and was released later for PC and then even later for PlayStation 4. I had heard of this game plenty of times and heard it was absolutely phenomenal. However, I never got around to playing it. Although after now playing a bit of the game, I can definitely tell that there are some similarities to things like Heavy Rain or Beyond Two Souls, which were some of my favorite games that I ever played growing up. Alan Wake sees you playing in real time in a psychological thriller mystery type game slash story, and you follow Wake as he tries to piece together a trip that he went on, but he cannot recall the past week of that trip. His wife seems to be missing, and somebody is using his wife as a tool against him, and on top of that, there seems to be some sort of outbreak of spirits that are attacking Wake.
I don't like it, Al. I don't like any of it. It's not good. In fact, it's the absolute opposite of good.
On top of his lack of memory being heavily disorienting, he also is told that the place that he was staying at doesn't even exist. Wake is a writer who had severe writer's block, and that's why he went on this trip up to like a really serene location that's supposed to be away from society in order to kind of clear his mind and hopefully get writing. When Wake arrives to the location, however, he was not planning on writing anything, but everybody seems to constantly be pushing him to write, even his wife who accompanied him on the trip. Then a bunch of crazy shit happens after he goes to clear his head and then hears his wife screaming his name. Not in a sexual way, but in a I'm being murdered type of way. You then get kind of transported to him in a car off of a cliff and his wife now kidnapped, and then you're tasked with piecing together everything that happened by collecting various manuscripts, and as you collect this manuscript, you're told that the things on the pages are happening in real life. On top of that, those spirits that I mentioned, they are regularly attacking you, and you have to illuminate them in the darkness with your flashlight or with other light tools of light, including like flares and whatnot, and then once they've been illuminated, you can go ahead and shoot them and do some serious damage. You get a range of weapons from like a sniper to a hunting shotgun to a pistol, and the enemies are varied in a couple of different ways. Most of the enemies come up to you and try to slash you with either an axe or a knife. Other enemies will throw their axes at you, and then other ones will literally just chase you down to fuck with you, it seems. There are really cool minor aspects to this game that I would not have known about if it weren't for my brother. But basically, when my brother was reloading the weapon, I noticed him spamming X as fast as he could. And at first, I thought he was just doing it for dramatic effect. However, it turns out no. In this game, you really can speed up how fast you like reload your revolver, for example, by spamming the X button as fast as possible. And you can even see in the animation that Wake is doing that he is increasing his speed with the increase in the amount of times you're pressing the button. You have almost like mini boss battles so far where you have to use different ways to keep away waves and waves of enemies, and there's even like certain enemies that are super duper strong and take quite a few bullets to fight off, and those ones I would say are more of like either mini bosses or bosses. As you go through these different experiences with Mr. Wake as well, you go through episodes. It's really kind of posed as almost a television show, which according to my brother, apparently this was supposed to be like a TV show alongside the game, but that just kind of didn't pan out. And on top of that, some of the characters that you face, like Mr. Stucky, are pretty memorable.
Oh, hell.
Carl Stucky. Pleased to meet you. Non-refundable reservation deposit required. Fair and square.
The environment is also very memorable, looking very realistic, but also giving this kind of serene feel during the day, but at night you can really feel the weight of the horror of this area weighing down on you. The one complaint I would have is that level design is a little fucked up. So for example, you're supposed to use the flares to fend off a large swath of enemies that comes at you during one of these missions where you're trying to fight alongside this other guy. However, if you find the flares beforehand and you already used them, you don't get any more flares. And having it so that you can take these flares so early and basically be fucked when you get to the hard part that you need the flares felt a little strange, and like it shouldn't have even allowed me to grab those flares until we get to the point where they're necessary. On top of that, there's certain things that I like about the level design, but that they didn't do as well as it could have been done. For example, there is a bunch of logs that you climb on and walk across, and you have to kind of balance your way across. And there's certain areas that I've noticed that it looks like, hey, maybe I can use this log to get across. And you can even go get on the log. However, there's like an invisible wall blocking you from getting over, and that's a bit frustrating with how fluid everything else seems to be moving. I would say that the horror aspect isn't insanely high, but it definitely does get up there during the cinematic scenes. And on top of that, one of the scariest things is the fact that all of these spirits will come out of various different places, and you will never know exactly where they're coming from. So you could be taking on 3 guys in front of you, and then all of a sudden another dude pops up and decks the shit out of you, and then you get double tapped, never to be seen again. This is just, of course, a first impression, like the title says. So that's all we really have for today's review. Once we go ahead and play through more of it, we'll go ahead and get back to you with more updates on what we think about the game. But generally speaking, as a newcomer to this game who's never played it before, I am in love with it right away. The combat is a lot of fun. The light aspects are very unique. Like one example that I actually forgot about until right now about like these light mechanics. So you do eliminate or illuminate enemies, as well as you have to go and find various different light posts that kind of help you guide your way through various levels, as well as when you stand in the light, you get healed. It's these types of mechanics that set Alan Wake aside, as well as its absolutely fantastic story. And I cannot wait to play some more and get back to you guys with whatever our final review will be. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys like Alan Wake? Do you dislike it? Let me know in the comments down below. If there's anything I missed, definitely let me know in the comments below as well. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, that will pop up during the outro, and you can like and subscribe for more gaming content like this, doing retro reviews, games that are coming out, trailers, etc., as well as you can follow us over on Smokin Sessions, a channel where we do similar content except in the vein of movies. Alright guys, I'll see you all in the next Gamin session.
Stop! No! Damn it, die! No! No! No!
Placed out of my hand to the depths of the universe. It's a spell or a chance just to open up a newer card.